Imagine yourself standing at the foot of St. Hilary's weathered bell tower, midsummer sunlight bathing the stone in liquid gold, while swifts stitch loops through the air. The hush before the festival peal feels almost sacred, yet you sense a different vibration, something darker hiding behind those patient bronze mouths overhead. You inhale and pick up a faint metallic tang, as though the bells are already bleeding out secrets. That is when Lord Peter Wimsey removes his straw boater, tilts his head, and listens not to the silence, but to the silence beneath the silence. What is it about a church tower that makes every whisper echo like a confession? Before you can chase the thought, a single strangled note bursts into being. It is the lead bell ringer, poor Edwin Pargeter, found swaying from a tangled knot of bell ropes as though the tower itself has decided to toll a human chime. You hear the collective gasp of villagers gathering in the nave, shawls clutched, caps removed, eyes widening like lantern glass. "Sir, was it a tragic misstep?" they murmur, "or something fouler?" Lord Peter nods politely, yet his blue gaze maps every corner, taking in chalk dust on a windowsill, the smudge of fresh boot polish on stone, the way one bell rope is damp as if weeping. In less time than it takes for an echo to fade, you are drawn into his investigation, and every footfall upon the spiral stair feels like the slow winding of a watch. Wimsey asks you to close your eyes and listen. At first, you catch only the hush of dust motes landing, but then he hums 3 notes, G, B, and D, the very triad the bells should strike when rung in sequence. He whispers, "Notice how the G lingers, the B stutters, and the D is strangled altogether. That," he says, "is the shape of murder. Could a killer really leave a fingerprint in sound?" The notion seems impossible until you recall how Edwin trained his ringers to treat each bell like a voice in a cathedral choir, disciplined yet full of soul. If someone wanted to silence him, what better way than to turn his own music into the noose? One by one you follow Wimsey through the village, collecting alibis like shards of stained glass. There is Reverend Kersey, whose sermon notes tremble as he swears he was polishing the lectern. Mrs. Dawlish, soprano of the choir, whose laughter rings a touch too sharp when she claims to have been arranging lilies. Young Thomas Yu, apprentice bell ringer, fingers blistered, eyes skittish. Each offers a time, a place, a reason. Yet Wimsey translates them into intervals, matching the clink of teacups to quarter notes, the scuff of boots to a restless trill. "Do you hear the discord?" he asks. "The hidden seventh that refuses resolution." Suddenly every mundane sound holds a clue, and the village itself becomes a score waiting to be read. Twilight settles, and the tower stands against a bruised sky like the stopped heart of the parish. You and Wimsey climb again, lantern bobbing. The ropes, now released from the day's duties, dangle like silent witnesses. Wimsey produces a small tuning fork, strikes it, and watches how the sound shivers along the hemp strands. Where the vibration dies, he marks a spot with chalk. Soon a pattern emerges, a ghostly cord laddering upward, pointing not to the bells, but to the trapdoor halfway to the belfry. Why would anyone lurk on that narrow landing unless they planned to drop the noose at precisely the right beat? Your pulse quickens to match the imagined footfalls of the killer. The next morning breaks with skylarks and scandal. Word of Edwin's death has spread like smoke, and envy flickers in every conversation. You learn that the festival committee voted last month to replace traditional ringing with a recorded carillon, a decision Edwin fought with fiery letters to the Times. Who championed the new scheme? None other than Mrs. Dawlish, eager to showcase her solo anthem without the bell stealing range. Meanwhile, Thomas Yu coveted Edwin's baton, dreaming of leading the peal and earning a London scholarship. Reverend Kersey, you discover, feared that Edwin's letters might expose church funds diverted to repair the vicarage roof. Motive, 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 but which one strikes true? The village green hums with gossip like bees trapped in a jar. That evening, the surviving ringers gather for a rehearsal, determined that the festival must proceed. You station yourself beside Wimsey at the organ loft, heart rattling like a tambour. The bells begin, tentative at first, then swelling. Layered within the rising chords, you notice an odd rhythm, a triplet where a duplet should be, as though someone is stepping on the cadence. Wimsey leans forward. "Now," he whispers, "watch the ropes." Mrs. Dawlish's hands jerk on the treble bell, forcing the others to compensate. Thomas Yu wipes sweat, missing his cue, while Reverend Kersey mutters prayers louder than the tenor bell. The music totters but does not fall, until a final clash rings out like a cracked chalice. Rehearsal halts in chaos. Wimsey strides onto the ringing floor, voice calm as candle flame. He asks Mrs. Dawlish to demonstrate her grip. The silk scarf hidden under her sleeve slips out, a perfect substitute for chalk on hemp, capable of muffling a telltale burn. She stammers, but protests innocence. He turns to Reverend Kersey, whose ledger peeks from a coat pocket. "Misappropriation, yes, but not murder," Wimsey says. Finally, he faces Thomas, still clutching the fifth bell rope. "Tell me, old lad, can you match this interval?" Wimsey whistles the G and B. Thomas responds, but the note wavers, exactly as it did in the tower on the night Edwin died. Only someone standing halfway up the stair could have choked the third note, Wimsey declares, and you have the blisters to prove it. Thomas sinks to his knees, confession spilling like water from a split vessel. He speaks of envy sharpened by years of being dismissed as merely the lad who pulled the ropes. He had wanted the bells to sing his name. Yet Edwin's insistence on tradition silenced that dream. So he plotted a macabre duet, timing the murder so the bells themselves would mask the creak of rope and beam. You feel the weight of the tower ease, as if the bells have been holding their breath and can finally exhale. Outside, evening light floods the churchyard, and distant thunder hints at cleansing rain. Wimsey replaces his boater and smiles. "Remember," he tells you, "harmony is not the absence of discord, but the art of resolving it. Will you carry that cadence with you long after the final chime?"